Good evening, good evening, good evening, and welcome to the Talking Drum on Viva Niger Radio. I'm your host, Rachel Onamusi, and this is the Talking Drum. Like I said, this is the show where we take a topic that affects the Nigerian, the African, or indeed the human, and we break it down into the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. We have an amazing, sensitive topic for you today, ladies and gentlemen. But before we dive right in, let me start by saying thank you so much for joining us. We've got a couple of special guests on the show today who are actually going to help us with our topic. A couple of experts in the field who are actually going to talk to us about what it is that we need to do when it concerns children. We are all in some way a parent or a guardian, or we know a child that is close or special to our hearts. So this is a topic that affects all of us in one way or the other. What will we be discussing today, ladies and gentlemen? We will be talking about, is the black child born disadvantaged? This means as soon as you come to the world, as soon as you come to earth, are there chips stacked against you? Do you have to jump extra high? Do you have to take extra steps just to measure up, just to get the privileges, or just to attain or achieve the things that other non-black children get as a matter of course? And then what happens with that disadvantage? Is there always a gap? Is this what we see when we talk about leadership within African countries? Is this what we see when we look at professionalism in diaspora? What sort of jobs do we tend to find black people in? What sort of roles do we tend to find ourselves? And if we come to some sort of consensus, and I'm not sure that we can, because at the end of the day, this is a talk show. It's not, this isn't JAMB, this isn't an exam where there's only one right or wrong answer. But if we do come to some sort of consensus that the black child is indeed disadvantaged, is there anything that we can do as a people? And by that, I mean parents, community leaders, religious leaders, brothers, sisters, neighbors. Is there anything that we can do to narrow that gap and to increase our chances, as it were? Or do we just opt out and fight a different battle? So, for example, one might say that Asians have completely opted out of certain categories, and they have corner shops or whatever. They've carved a niche for themselves, as it were. Could we say that black people need to carve a niche for themselves? This and a whole bunch of other things are the things that we're going to be talking about today. So thank you so much for joining us. I hope I can get all my questions in. We stated the topic on the group, on the Facebook group. What was it? I think about 3-4 days ago, and we've just had comments pouring in. So I'm hoping to be able to air a lot of these opinions, talk to people about some of the questions that come up. So please do stay with us. It's going to be a long ride, but hopefully we're going to hope that we get some nuggets out of this show today. Let me do a little bit of housekeeping and tell you how you can join us. Whose child is that? Risha, is you. It can only be you. So, little bit of housekeeping. If you are calling us from the UK, the telephone number you need to dial is 0330 998 1261. If you're calling us from America, please call 712-770-4032. If you're dialing from Nigeria, that number is 01440-5024. In all three instances, you just need to dial the number, then it will prompt you for the access code. That number is 264812. And then you just follow with the hash key and boom, you're in the studio. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions. I'm already seeing a couple of members of the Bad Gang already in the house, but let me start with my guests. Telephone number ending 2162. Caller, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Excellent. And you are crystal clear. I want to say this is Shola Alabi, right?
Yes, it is.
Ah,
Good
Shola.
evening.
Good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening. Thank you so much for joining me. Now,
My pleasure.
I'm gonna let you introduce yourself and let you talk about exactly what it is that you do. This is a long-term friend of mine. Unfortunately, we've not had a lot of steps in the same direction, simply because I don't have any kids of my own at the moment, but I do know that you are a sterling teacher par excellence, and our paths have crossed in other community events and things that we support together. So let me just give you a few minutes to just exactly what you do, exactly what your strength is, and what your passion is, basically, if you'd like to fill us in, please.
Okay, good evening, everyone. I am Shola Labi. I am a parent, a mom of two. I am a qualified teacher by profession. I am the founder of the Raising Successful Children Hub.
Beautiful.
I own two successful tuition centers in London. I have actually been involved with educating children for the last 16 years. I think, yes, 16 in July. And I do have a passion for children, just because obviously they're the next generation and the next leaders. I do have a passion for, obviously, Black African kids. I also, obviously, over the last 10 years have picked up the parents as well, because I do understand that a child would only become a success. And what I mean by that is not just academically, but in all areas and spheres of life, if their parents are actively involved.
Exactly.
So I do support parents as well through the online platform, which is the Raising Successful Children Hub. I support quite a number of children, as well. And I also get involved in, community projects as well, which involve parents, which involve children, and yes, I am Shola Labi. Yeah.
Thank you so much for bringing us up to speed. There was a very special reason why I wanted you here, and the reason is I wanted us to talk objectively. I think we can all get very emotive about this subject. We can all get very, it's true, Joe. They don't let our Black children do certain, it's true. But, we need the stats. We need the proof. We need to talk like reasonable adults and actually look at what is objectively on ground, rather than just foaming at the mouths over perceived injustices or prejudices that may or may not be there. So, forgive me, I'm going to be relying very, very heavily on you today for information, and please do feel free. You see how everywhere is quiet now. This is not how we normally are. So please feel free jump in. If someone is saying something that you feel, it could be corrected, or we're going a little bit off topic, please do feel free to, we will defer to your experience in the field, as it were. I think everyone, with the exception of myself, is a parent, so there's a lot of experience in this room tonight. So let's all just chip in and let's make a difference. I don't really want us to have a natter for 2 hours and then everybody goes to their houses and that's the end of Solomon Grundy. That's not what this is about. There's some things that it is only government that can change. There's some things that are policies, there's some things that are laws, but there are some things that we can do within our homes. There are some differences that we can make to our neighbor's child or to our own. I have many people that call me big mommy, that call me auntie. So this isn't about, you wouldn't understand because you don't have kids or anything like that. This is something that concerns every single one of us. So if we want a level playing field, it starts from these discussions. It starts from right here.
Absolutely.
So let me get the rest of the people in the room. We've already heard Rachel. Rachel cannot talk at the moment because there are children where she is. So she will be joining us in a minute. Let me introduce Dolapo. How's your hangover?
Hello, ladies. How are you?
Hello. How are you? You're back in Canada now. Bless you.
Yes. Yes, I'm back in beautiful weather. Unlike that, you're rainy.
No, you can equally.
You're really cold London, for God's sake. I mean, now it's like 28 degrees outside. It's lovely.
Yeah, but you know what you don't have? You don't have us. So I don't know what you're doing with all that 28
True.
degrees when we are not even there. We're the Thank you so much. It was so wonderful to finally meet you, to put a face to the name, to friends that, virtual friends
You
became
know
real
what?
friends.
That was the highlight of my trip, was meeting you, seeing Carmen. Um,
Yes.
mhm.
Yes. Oh, and you met
and
and she's even here.
and
Inkiru Kama.
Nkiru.
Hello.
Oh my gosh. This phoneme must be for Shola. Shola, she's putting on an accent for you,
Please, but I don't mind them. Oh, darling. Hello,
That's
darling. How are you?
that's
Don't
the
mind
I'm
them.
not even here like
Rachel.
For my person. It's all right.
she said hello. I said, when did Queen Elizabeth join us?
Anyway, just okay. Nkiru, how's your leg though?
Well, I stopped using the crutches. They say use crutches. It will take the pressure off the knee. They're talking rubbish because the crutches is putting muscles in my arms and trying to make one side of my breast big. So I rejected the devil and I am walking on my own.
Bless you.
Can you
There's
imagine?
Inkiru will I know you need to tap out briefly at 9 o'clock, but there's another reason why I deliberately want you here. Inkiru is actually a foster parent. Inkiru, am I correct?
Okay.
Yes, I am.
So you
Okay.
also you have experience with not just black kids but with non-black kids as well,
Mixture.
a mixture, a whole
Yeah.
bunch of things. So
Yes.
this is amazing. This is a show that I was like, Inkiru, drop everything you are doing, form one cough at work if you have to form the cough, or do whatever it is you need to do, and beg off sick and everything. So let me start by saying that Bimbo isn't here with us today. However, Bimbo is it's her niece who is 10 years old that actually came up with this topic. She's the one who actually came up with sorry, I've just got one other person who is in the teaching whatever, who I asked to join us, and she's saying she's having trouble connecting. Who can I ask to anyway, I'll get back to that. So this is a 10-year-old that actually came up with this idea and actually said, is there a difference? I feel some sort of difference. I feel so we can't actually mock this. We can't, if a child is feeling some kind of nuances, some kind of differences or something, this is something we need to deal with or to talk about.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
let's jump in. We've done the introductions. Everybody knows who everybody is. Everybody say hi to Shola.
I
Hello.
Hi, Shola.
Thank you. Hi, Dolafo.
So I want to start
I'm
with,
fine, thank you. I'm very well.
all of us here are actually in diaspora one way or the other. But let's start with the Nigerian child in Nigeria, because we were all, at least to an extent, born and brought up in Nigeria. We are all first generation expats, as it were. Would I be right in saying that? So you all have some knowledge or some experience of what it is to grow up in Nigeria, to be a child in Nigeria. Now, thinking back to the education that you got, thinking back to some of the things that your parents told you, your peers told you, your aunties, your uncles told you, do you think you were primed for success? Do you think, because I think Nigeria is a bit of a double-edged sword, where in some things we only let children study certain courses that we think will get them a lot of money or get them some kind of status. But on the other hand, I think we do put some kind of imaginary glass ceiling there. So I want to reach out to everybody in the room and ask you, do you think, knowing what you know now, that the upbringing you had prepared you for success, prepared you either to feel like success is the default, like a success, or B, if you now feel like there are some obstacles in your way, did that upbringing prepare you to actually overcome those obstacles and those things that might be in the way now? In so saying, do you think there's certain things you were taught growing up that you would now do differently with your child. So let me start this question with Dolakbo, please. Dolakbo, do you think we were raised as children for success?
I think you made a statement earlier there that said we were basically told what to study. Generally speaking, I think that was what happened, at least with my generation going through, primary school and secondary school. Basically, it was, you always had like the main profession which you had to study for, which was either you become a doctor or a lawyer, or by default you become an accountant if you can't do any of those. And
especially if you're Ijebu, a console accountant.
but you see, while knocking that particular model, there is still some things that we can pick from it and say that okay, they did right, which was the things they instilled in us, which was the discipline to focus on what you're supposed to focus on, and the belief that you just have to have faith in yourself and just do what you're supposed to do, and don't worry, everything will work out for you. There's something they taught us back there, which today is not being taught, which is basically that you are responsible for the choices you make. Unlike today, where you're being taught that whatever goes on in your life, something else must have been responsible for it. It's not your fault, I'm not saying that we don't have situations like that, if you were molested or assaulted or whatever it may be as a child. I mean, it can definitely have negative effects on you, but you can still make the right choices if you had the right people guiding you as you were growing up, and that is one thing that is missing in today's learning environment for kids. Now, if we go back and say, look at, in Nigeria, we didn't have anything. There was no reason to say, oh, it's because I'm black. For God's sake, we were all black. I mean, the only people we had then were probably, if you depend on the school you went to, you probably had a smattering of maybe some Indian kids and some
mixed race.
Kids.
There were a couple of
Even the mixed race kids were basically didn't see themselves as mixed race, unless as a boy you look at a girl, you just see them as beautiful. I'm not saying it's right, so please don't tear me up on that. I'm saying that's just what we were thinking.
No, I completely understand what you're saying. Yeah.
So there was really nothing to stop us from thinking that the sky was the limit for us. Now that could have been because Nigeria in itself, or Nigerians, already have that self-confidence going on. I don't need to pull out data for it, I don't have it, but you already know that the average Nigerian is a self-confident person.
Yes.
As a black person, regardless. So maybe that had to do with our independence, which was not really hard fought for. We didn't shed blood on a large scale for it, or we were not. No, I mean, for some other African countries, that might have been the case, and you can see how timid they tend to look at things, or they tend to behave. So, in a sense, I mean, there are plus and minuses for the way we grew up and the learning environment. I decry some of the things that are lost now because, you talk to my kids, I mean, they're grown, but you tell them, okay, so do this, so it's just 10 plus 15 and 2 plus 23, and they pick up a calculator and start doing it, and I'm going, really? Really? This is the laziness that has been brought into the learning environment for kids, and I don't know. The fallout from that is far-reaching.
So I have a question, because everything we talk about, I want to bring it back to the black child. So when you're talking about, now your kids can't or won't do the simplest arithmetic or the simplest, whatever in their head, they'll bring out their phone and press it out on the calculator. Is there a need for me to be able to find the square root of 72 in my head? Or am I better served? This is a question, by the way, not a judgment call at all. Am I better served in being the person who builds the next bridge or the next, that sends a rocket into space? Because we have so many kids in Nigeria. I remember when I went back to Nigeria, I lived here for, years I think I went back, I was 13. And all the teachers took great pride in mocking me and saying, you are not in London again, no, we don't do any of those simple things here, oh. You are now in Nigeria now, better sit up, better buck up, better. And yeah, there were some things that these kids were reciting by rote. Like, I'm over here, I was like, which brain they put up, what? But the things that I did, I mean, by the time I was 11, 12, although I was in an all-girls school, one of the things we also did, like woodwork and electronics or whatever. I did a teddy bear where it made out of a wooden, like the face of a bear. Then where the two eyes were, I put LEDs. And I soldered the LEDs together to something, I can't quite remember the connection now, to something that feeds into a battery, like these A3 batteries or whatever they're called, not the AA batteries, but these kind of batteries that go into more technical. And then there was a thing that you could press and the eyes of the teddy bear would light up. And I did this at age 11. I didn't know how to do sine, cosine, tan, blah, 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 blah. But I was here in a school in Walsall. I was in Queen Mary's High School for girls. And I did this thing at age 11 or maybe age 12, because I know I got to Nigeria at age 13. I can't quite remember what age, but certainly, I did a teddy bear with LEDs, with a circuit, with a battery, and it worked. And it worked and worked and worked until that battery died. So when I am saying, are we prepared for success? These things that we were taught, these things that we were fantastic. I remember at the time, we used to call it in Ife, Berubeso. Like, we can cram and pour down the old book and pour down an entire textbook and but I guarantee you the morning after the exam, I don't remember jack.
Yeah.
And I will graduate, not that I will, I did graduate with a 2-1. Nicely.
Can I just come in, Rachel?
Please do.
I mean, just to agree with what you have just said. I remember when I went I did my first degree in Nigeria. I was a biochemist, and then obviously I came here and then decided to go into teacher training because I did really, I noticed I got on well with children. And when I started teacher training, of course we had, the classes, and then we'd also had majority of the course was hands-on, where you go in and you'd actually teach in school. I remember that when I started, of course, I went in, I did quite well. I had a 2-1 in back. And when I got into school, I was lost completely because the strategies were completely different.
Absolutely.
The way we were meant to teach or transfer the information was to apply to everyday life, But what I knew, of course, I knew everything. I mean, all my colleagues and, oh, wow, she knows. But being able to apply it was really difficult. So I do agree with what you're saying, Rachel, in the sense that the method of teaching is completely different back at home. But of course,
but is it useful? Well. Is it? I'm not saying I see the differences and I see that it's completely different. And I do have friends exactly like what you've said who have come out here to do masters, and they struggle. They came out as the shining star in their own school or wherever they're coming from, or they're the head of whatever, they're the ones that people look up to, or they're the ones that teach the tutorial, come out here and they can't. I mean, Nigerians, I remember a friend of mine who couldn't get his head around an open textbook exam, and I was like, Koyemi, so they will give you will sit there with the expo, and he came out and he failed woefully. Because the thing is not just on to page 67 and pour out everything you see on page 67. You need to be able to apply it to the question that is being asked.
Absolutely.
So in what you were saying, Dolakbo, and again, this is not a reproach of any sort in terms of so simple arithmetic these children can't even do. Can we say, like in the case of open textbooks, you can have the resources to do the addition or to do the multiplication or to do the division at your fingertips. Is it training you to make use of that thing very well?
I don't know
Hi,
who was
people.
going to
Can I
answer that
come in real
question,
quick?
but can I just
Just
quickly
1 minute.
point
Who's
out the
that? Rachel,
different
give me 1 minute
levels?
and
It's
let's.
Rachel. Rachel,
Rach.
I wanted to make a comment real quick and then run back out. I had to come hide in the basement. So I do
Okay.
not think it is as black and white
Okay.
as we are kind of putting it. I think
Okay.
what Dolap was talking about has some usefulness depending on the
Absolutely.
field that you are in. And then what you're talking about also has its usefulness. There
Okay.
needs to be a balance. I
Okay.
went to school, 70% of my education was in Nigeria, but I'm that child that did not learn by rote. But I can tell you 12 by 6 off the top of my head. I can do that calculation. Not everybody is by rote. The open textbook thing, I would never take an open textbook exam because if I have not studied, an open textbook is shit. I don't know what I'm looking for. I don't know how to apply it.
Yes.
So it is not exactly black and white. It's it's very gray. A lot of
Okay.
Nigerians function by rote, and rote is not sufficient. When all you do is cram, you're going to
Yes.
fail. There's
Yes.
a point where you will fail because you do not understand the concept. However, you can memorize concepts and still understand that. And there's a bit of that missing in this generation.
Yes,
But
yes,
we are in a
yes.
different time, different place. And that's another thing we need to understand. They're not our generation, just like we were not our parents' generation. So the way they get taught is not the way we got taught. So, and I think that's an adjustment for us as parents now. Because sometimes I don't teach my kids math because when they bring the math and they start showing me how they act, like, listen, just take that thing to your teacher, I can't because I don't understand it. When I want to teach them the way I was taught, which is what I understand, and we get to the answer faster, they get very confused.
Yes.
So
Yes.
there are a lot of gray areas in that, based on how we were taught versus how they're being taught here and how children are applying concepts versus how we used to apply concepts. That I think we lose a lot when we try to look at it from that perspective.
Agreed. Thank you so much, Rachel. Thank you. I know you're ducking in and out, so please, whenever you can come in. Yeah, Dolapo, please. Were you done, or did you want to add anything to that? I completely agree with you. By the way, I'm just saying, was it really good for us? But of course, Rachel has actually come in and really put some balance to it.
Oh, definitely. I just wanted to basically point out to everyone here that, you see, I'm 48, all right, or will be 48 in November. Now, when I went through elementary in the 70s, what we were taught at secondary school, the way we were taught and the things we were taught are totally different from what was the way and what was being taught in the 90s,
Sure.
and then in the 2000s, now the 2010s. Now it's totally different, Of course, there's some things that you cram that you just. I mean, I still retain some information that are not useful to me, for God's sake. I can do my times table.
Yes.
I can do my times table till 12.
Yes.
In sciences, I still at least I think I can remember the periodic table, or maybe the first 10. Hydro. For some reason, when I want to show off, I show off to my daughter who is in college now doing biomedical science, and I go hydrogen, lithium, beryllium, boron, carbon, and she go, oh. I don't use that in my day-to-day existence anymore. But we need to understand that, of course, education in Nigeria has fallen totally. It's deplorable what we have in Nigeria. In the 70s and maybe the late 60s, university graduates in Nigeria were being sought after by the postgraduate schools in the UK and the US. They came looking for them. So that speaks volume for the kind of products that were being churned out. But it's not anymore. I mean, in the 70s, if you say you're a graduate of UI, University of Ibadan, they just come after you immediately, like you got to come do a master's over here. But now UI, they're still questioning your certificate.
Like, who? Where? Thank you so much, Dolapo. Let me go to Nkiruka. Nkiruka, do you think education in Nigeria prepares the kids for excellence? Because I know that when I went to like I said, the secondary school that I went to, and by the way, I don't wanna beat it up or anything. My school was exemplary as schools go. I still remember.
Name this school.
My friend, the great citadel of Salagbara Dole. You go there thinking you know book, and you will come out and know that you don't know anything. The school was gangster. But I am just saying, if it was so great, the teachers took it was a school in Warri. That's why I don't name it, because it's not a school any of you would have heard of. But Mrs. Udwohori, and I still talk about her till tomorrow, I didn't understand maths. I didn't understand the concept of maths. Once it passed plus, minus, long division, they start talking about sine, cosine, tan. I was like, what's into real long? What's going on here? They left that one and they will go to another thing. And I'm like, this thing now, what does it mean? What am I supposed to do with this thing? Also, if I want to, I think I'm going to take up lap dancing or something, because I need to do something that doesn't involve mathematics, because this is crazy. And she took her time, and everything I know today, because maths further extended into physics, I understood the concepts of principles. If you get the principle, you can solve the question. It doesn't matter how complicated they try to make the question. You just have to strip it down to the bare bones and work out what principle do I need to use here. So don't get me wrong, I have no hard...
Rachel, you know what you just said right there?
Yes.
Is the key to teaching. Back then, what your teachers taught you was not the answer. They said, show your working.
Show your working,
the
yes.
process.
Yes, and she continued to do that. Because I'm the person who is rush and make mistakes and put a decimal place too far out, or too many, put too many zeros after the decimal, I still used to pass. And she would call me to the office and say, Adequiju, you know this thing. You don't, I don't want to turn this into a Yoruba show. Oh, King Farabale. You don't take your time. You don't take your time. And I'm just the person, like, I would do an exam and I would walk out of the exam, me, cross-check, double-check my answer. Who has power? That means you're basically asking me to do the answer again. I'm doing the whole exam again by the time you're telling me to go over it, basically. And also, I was that person that never used to stand around. The people that stand and say, hey, what did you write for number 6? I'm not part of those people. I've submitted. I don't, because what are you going to do? Either you got it right, which, I assume that's what you went into the exam hall to do.
You're out of the exam hall already. Please,
exactly. I can't change what I wrote.
If you realize that you've got it wrong, it could start to pain you in your mind. I have failed already. So
yes.
That's just a recipe for depression, because if everybody else chorus, what did you get for question 6, and you put 100, and everybody else is saying no, it's 102. Now you're depressed for the
if you put 100 and it is 102,
100 may be the correct answer.
Wait.
Absolutely, exactly.
If you put 100 and it's 102, you will rely on, maybe I just put a couple points too much, and they will still give me marks for my walk-in. Maybe if everybody puts 102 and your answer is zebra, because how did you arrive? You are so far off. And this has happened to me on more than one occasion, where I'm like, I'm nowhere near your answer. So I never used to stand around. I never used to be those people. So my question is, if these teachers were really that good, which they were, if this process was really that good, which it is, it might not have been perfect, but it was certainly useful in certain situations, as we've now learned. Why were he being poached by, like Dolak was saying, they would ask you to come out here to do masters and blah, 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 blah. Why didn't we stay and build our countries? Why didn't we have, why was that not utilized? If it's so great, why isn't Nigeria better, I guess?
Now, see, I like that question. This is where corruption eats into everything.
Okay.
And this is the effect of corruption. Now, when you had all these smart kids who finished, did well in college, graduated, but because they come from poor backgrounds, were not able to get jobs. So the getting a job was based on who you know, as opposed to what how did you do in school. So guess what? The smart ones now take the only opportunity left to them, which is the offer to come and do a master's and remain in that country that made that offer.
Yes.
That is, this is basically the classical example of a brain drain, and we have suffered from it seriously. I don't know. That is exactly what's happening. When you look at Chevrolet today, the very first electric car that was made by Chevrolet was penned by a Nigerian. It was designed by a Nigerian. We can say Hausa no book, but it was an Hausa boy.
Imagine. We've had this conversation before on this show about Zuckerberg going to Nigeria and all of that, and we talked about the fact that we were the only people who were a little bit askance, who were a little bit not completely seduced by the fact that, because we're like, what do you think he's going to? Do you think he's going to Nigeria to eat jollof and he's going to pick the next set of brains? He's going to look for the next, and this is going to be a brain drain / slave trade that the people willingly go. Share the first time they took us in chains. This time, somebody's going to say to you, come work for Facebook. Who's going to say no? Come work for Google. Who's going to say no? So they're going to take our biggest, brightest brains, and then we're going to be left with the pot-bellied men in Senate making laws that absolutely have no sense at all. And we're just going to continue to deteriorate. So, I'll take that. Dolapo, that it's not necessarily that we were not being taught right. It's what happened to us when we came out of that system. So, he said, Nkiru, welcome. Nkiru got kicked off the...
When I was in the middle of my speech, imagine the insolence of this phone.
Did he just kick her off the show? So, Nkiru, what do you think? Do you think we're being trained properly in Nigeria? Do you think we were being prepared for excellence?
Not being funny. The school I went to a school in Jos, Baptist High School, Jos.
Okay.
And to be honest with you, some things, like Dalapo said, things I learned there, I'm not using now. Do you understand? And I think I'm happy with what I'm doing now. And didn't even know what I did existed at the time I was in school. But obviously, like Dalapo was saying, we were raised to be doctors, lawyers, accountants. If you're lucky, your parents don't throw you out of the house for saying that. But doctor, lawyer, you understand? So it was those. So
accountancy was very bajensi, as in, okay, you didn't make doctor, you didn't make it. Was very like, at least you go school now. You know,
exactly. If he was not busy chasing girls, he would have been a doctor.
Yes, so my father and I didn't speak for a month. You know when you go from JSS 3 to SS1?
Yeah.
My father and I didn't speak for a month because I went to arts class.
Oh, wow.
I chose my subjects without him being present. And I chose economics, history, literature, CRK. I didn't go for maths, physics, biology, chemistry. My father didn't speak to me for a month after I chose my subjects because he felt like you're a failure. Straight.
Yeah. I've narrated on this show before that my mother followed me to school and changed all my courses back. Changed them all. I picked arts. I found myself in F, as in literature, history. And the only thing I didn't do was go and fry Google in school. As in, I picked pure arts. The easier, the better. I did not pick one single. The only thing I did was FEChem. I did biology because you couldn't get rid of it. I did maths, English, biology. Those were the three compulsory ones. And then anything after that. Subjects. Yeah, anything after that, if I could get rid of it, I got rid of it. I even struggled to gather 8 subjects together because I'm like, this one's safe. I don't want to do it. God knows. But they said I have to do 8. So, and I did everything and everything was great. And then my mother said, oh, okay, you picked all of that. But okay, so that's nice. That's great. And then the following term, she took me to school and then she dropped me off because I was a boarder. First thing Monday morning, I'm like, your teacher, your mother is with VP Akada. That's what we used to call Vice Principal Academics. VP Akada, and that VP Akada is calling. If you people saw this VP Akada, she looked like Willy. She was yellow to the point of albinism. In fact, now that I look back at it, I think she was a little bit albino. Scariest looking woman, and she never spoke. She walked up and down the corridors with her hands behind her back, and all you could hear were her heels, just koi, koi, koi. So for me to be called to VP Akadas, I was like, somebody please go and tell her I'm
What
sick.
have I done?
They said I wasn't sick. Hey God. Okay, somebody please go and tell her I didn't come to school. They said they've already seen you. What is this life? Okay, so somebody, until I finally got there, and my mom was there, and she was like, see, she's lazy. She just doesn't want to do anything. She's going to do sciences. My mother said, you will do maths, English, Fi can buy. Okay, don't let it be that I didn't give you a choice. You can pick the remaining 3 subjects. That's how I ended up with they didn't even know what class to put me, because I wasn't in sciences and I wasn't in arts. It was just a mishmash of subjects. So, but looking back at it, it was fantastic, because by the time I had done 3 years in sciences, my ability to grasp things. So I entered IFE to actually do medicine. By the end of year 1, I dropped out of medicine and went to psychology. Yes, now. I forbid doctor, this thing that you people are using ordinary name to call me. I would have been Dr. Rachel by now. So I dropped out and I went into, but my speed at assimilating things. The children who were in arts, who were in social sciences, could not, I found them sluggish to the point of irritation. Like, really, do they have to explain this thing 10 times to you before you got it? Because when you're in sciences, nobody has time to tell you something 5 million times. So actually, I found out that my brain was working at a level that was, I got things much quicker. I assimilated much quicker as a result of having spent all of that time in sciences and things like that. But let's not digress, because it's 41 past and we still haven't moved. So are we all saying, we're all saying that the Nigerian education is some kind of mixed, some kind of some good parts, but some not so clever parts?
I think it's just the schools, though. I think it's the schools. Don't you think? There's some schools that stick to curriculum. Okay, you know the curriculum here and the curriculum there is not the same.
They're different,
There's some parts that, you can, if you bring my son, my son is in year 3. My 8-year-old is in year 3 here. But if you bring a child that's 8 years old, who's probably in primary, I've seen a child that came from Nigeria on holiday, and my son, and the child didn't understand jack of what my son was saying. Neither did my son understand jack of what the boy was saying.
Because
totally different.
I mean, one of the reasons, the difference is because here we do have systems. Of course, a child who is 8 will be in year 3. In Nigeria, a child could be 8 and they could be in year 4, or they could be, there's a system of double promotion. There's a system where you could actually jump a year and move on to but that's not normal here.
Or some children will be 13 and be in year 3 because they don't repeat tire. They don't even
Nigeria disgrace person.
There was some grown men with mustache and everything in my primary school. I'm like,
you sit with them in class and just call them bros.
Oh, they're bros. They're bros.
I remember there was a case that we had a senior who'd actually repeated twice, and everybody had to call her. It was kind of she was like a terror. We were like in a terrorism camp where everybody had to respect and everybody had to bow to her and so on and so forth. So of course, she was having her way being the auntie or the mommy in the
of
class,
these children.
But I remember the first time I said something, I said something to one of my colleagues at school, and I said, it's just a shame that we don't have the opportunity to get, blah, 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 to go through the whole year again. I said that's what we do back in Nigeria. If you don't get through the exams at the end of the year, you have to revisit. And they said, that's humiliation, Shola, isn't it? And I said, well, for some people it did work.
That's how
for some, of course, it was.
So since I'm sharing, I'm among friends, right? Let me share some of my Lord Jesus, I've given my life to Christ now. The things are not the way they were before. So what happened was, I was, all through secondary school, when I got back to Nigeria, I was first in English the whole time. Everybody knew, Peju, yes, English, yes, blah, 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 all of that. Then there was a boy sitting in front of me in SSCE. He was in further maths class. We sat in a huge hall, and they arranged us according to our names, our surnames, right? We were in alphabetical order. So this is probably the first time I'd ever spoken to this. This is one of those uncles. I mean, he had the chest the size of a blackboard. This boy was big. I'm sure he was probably already like 18 or 20 or something by the time we were doing. I mean, he was a big boy, complete with bia, everything. So I was like... Before the SSE was coming up, I had done extra lessons. I'd taken to tutorship in chemistry. I could understand physics because, like I said, I dealt with, mathematics, and I could kind of extend and extrapolate principles. That wasn't really a problem. Yeah. You see that thing they call chemistry? There was no rhyme or reason to it. There is no way for me to understand that chemistry, magnesium oxide, when heated in the presence of oxygen, will lead to diphosphorus. I don't. How does this thing work in daily life? Who has ever seen magnesium oxide?
Let me quickly say something before you go on, because I'll forget, because I'm the one to laugh now. Let me quickly say. Listen, when my father threw up a tantrum, and I said, okay, let me try. Let me do biology, because biology, you have to, even though you're in arts class, you have to take one science. So as far as I was concerned, cutting up amoeba or naming amoeba was easier for me than going to go and learn those signs and wonders in chemistry.
I'm telling you.
I took biology. Let peace reign. But I wanted more peace to reign. Sisters and brother, I entered chemistry class. Whoa! When this man opened his mouth, the first class, and he spoke, I put my hand up. He goes to me, Mr. What is it? I said, excuse me, sir, I'm in the wrong class. Can I use it? He said, get out. Get out.
See, I'm not sure what you had for the sciences, like we call it Fic and Bar then.
Yeah, Fic and Bar.
But when we did sciences in secondary school, each science class had a lab. And we were shown all these things. In chemistry, it wasn't just being taught what the names of these. We did titration.
Please, excuse me. I saw them all. Pink liquid, blue liquid, yellow gas coming out of the crucible.
Right. Our labs were fully equipped. I mean, a lab that will have the Bunsen burner with the test tubes and everything.
Thank you.
The mercury, it was there. In physics, they showed us light, the angle of reflection, you saw it.
I was very fascinated by the sciences.
No, I couldn't stand chemistry. Was like jazz. It was literally like witchcraft. I'm like, okay, so if I mix this thing, this is what it is.
You know what? With chemistry, I was fine with it until we went into the biochemistry.
Yeah.
When you now have to start, that was where they lost me completely, because the cells don't make sense. But if carbon comes into this contact,
it's cells that don't make sense. None of it makes sense. None of it makes sense. So anyway, I struck a deal with this gentleman. Omovie, that was his surname. Omovie, because it was right in front of me in Onomusi. Fantastic. Then I said, see, I've heard you speak. You cannot join a sentence together if your life depended on it. I, on the other hand, am rather well skilled in this English of 18. So, do me, I do you, God no go vex. I help you out with English, you help me out with chemistry.
You help me out with... Oh, wow.
So that was the deal. So far, so good. So English was actually two. English was, there was English, they'll ask you comprehension, blah, 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 blah. And then there was English that was like a writing. There was another, English was two papers. So the comprehension bit came first. And I was true to my word. I was feeding, he was sitting in front of me. I can't even remember how we managed to do that, because there was invigilators in the class. I was feeding him answers like a pro. I was like, some of you would have gotten, and it's, it was, no. There was one part. The first part was OBJ. It was 100 questions of tick A, tick B, tick C, tick D. And then the second part was the written part. Yes, English was two papers. Yes, correct. The first part was tick A, tick B, tick C. So we did that, and I got him all the answers. And here comes chemistry. I'm like, Omovie, show me answer now. Omovie, with his back. With his back, like what I don't know. Omavia moved the paper to the right, I couldn't see the paper. Omavia moved it to the left, I couldn't see the paper.
Oh, yeah.
This boy was built like a brick wall. And I'm looking at the time, I'm looking at everything. I'm like, so this is how I will fail and remain in this school. No.
Wow.
This cannot happen. This is how my village people will finally get me. And actually, I was more upset by the fact that I wasn't even so upset by the fact that, oh my gosh, chemistry, because I figured I'd done quite well on the other papers. I was upset by the fact that after I showed this boy English, so this is how he will now repay me in this chemistry. Do you know, I kept looking at the invigilator. The second the invigilator turned around, I just leaned forward in my desk and I snatched his paper and I kept it on my desk.
Oh, wow.
And he couldn't say anything. So I'm saying, let me issue a disclaimer to say after that I actually did concentrate on my work. But I think that's kind of how I passed chemistry, because there was no, I opened the exam thing and they said answer any 5 questions. I was like, thank you so much, I can't answer none of these questions. I can't do none of them. So I knew I had to do something. So I mean, I wasn't ready. I hated chemistry. I had no business being in chemistry. Yes. And somebody should have seen that there should have been some kind of careers counseling. There was I'm not the human being.
I say on the first day of classes, I put my hand up and told the man, I am in the wrong class. He goes to me, come and get out. I knew you couldn't do the subject anyway. I say, yes, thank you, sir.
Thank you, as in,
humbly walked out of the room because I didn't get my name.
But you identified yourself and you left. What Rachel is trying to say is, it would be a good idea if we had, of course, interventions in school. To say,
sorry, it's Rachel again, the clicking in and out person. Let me say this. It sounds like a lot of you went to private schools, because I went to a public school. And in transitioning from GS3 to SS3, we had to take certain exams, an aptitude test, which would tell you where you were stronger. And I took an aptitude test, and I was indicated for the commercial or the art class. Like I said in the WhatsApp, I was a child who snuck out like, hell yeah, you guys are crazy. I ain't doing that. And went into the sciences. And we had a guidance counselor who, based on your results, would advise you and say, you're better suited for here, you're better suited for here. And my thing is, we do have these services in Nigeria. The problem is they're not uniform. And because of a lot of parents who want their children to be doctors,
that is it. Because I did GSCE. That's what it was called. There was GSCE and there was SSCE. GSCE
then you do that aptitude test.
Precisely.
To GSCE.
Yes, I did it. I did it. I picked my arts gingerly. My mother changed it.
Yeah.
I did it.
That's why they ask you those questions of, they give you 10 things and ask you to find what's similar, what runs. It's really a crazy exam that makes no sense. And so I wanted to say that.
Well,
let me run back.
For some of us that are slightly older, I don't know if JSS and SSC was from 1 to 5.
I was just about to say the same, the last one that I'm not sure about this GSS and SSS because we went through from 1 to from 5 as well, and of course you would sit YX, isn't it?
Exactly. You took YX, but in Form 4 because your mom wants to know exactly how
you could do GCE.
You are. You do GCE, and then you do GCE in London.
Yeah.
And that would basically let them know, okay, you're prepared, or this one needs to go to some remedial classes after school. You're right. And it was, for me, I didn't do sciences because I hated biology. I hated dissection. When they did that frog, that was the end of it. I'm not doing. Sorry. I would never be a doctor. I would never do any surgery. Yeah, I'm not down for that.
Not even remotely.
So that was a big disappointment for my parents. I was more of a mixed class. I mean, I enjoyed physics because it was basically maths. That was mathematics, really. I was more of an economics guy. I was a geography guy, and that's what I enjoyed. But one thing I wanted to bring up basically is, even when we look at people that graduate from universities in Nigeria, we tend to think that those that graduate with first-class upper, those are the smart ones. And I don't believe that. I think those are the ones that could regurgitate things
Yes,
Yes.
yes,
they
yes,
read.
yes, yes,
Not
yes.
necessarily those that can apply what they learned to,
Absolutely.
So these are people that can cram very well,
Yes. Okay.
or that have, in some cases, that have photographic memory. I had a
Memory,
friend that I
yes.
went, I had a friend that I was in secondary school with. He went to UI. He's a neurosurgeon in UI and UCH now. In secondary school, this guy, I never saw him write a note.
Okay.
While we were busy doing that, he was under the desk. He was reading James Hadley Chase. But he would look up at the board once in a while, look at the things, just nod his head, and then go back to his novel. He had that photographic memory.
Okay.
So those are exceptions. But those ones that you see that at night, I mean, Rachel, you know them either in a library or down in pharmacy that are reading at 2 a.m., 3 a.m. Those are the ones that just want to just cram and, dump
and pour it all out.
Yeah, the first people, that's fine. But guess what? The ones that really run the industries, most of them, majority, did not graduate with first class.
No,
Absolutely.
they didn't. So let's move on, because I didn't even think, I had a fear that we would not have we would have more time than questions. And now I'm looking at some of our experiences. It's now clear that, we're an hour in and we've barely scratched the surface. I want to talk about Black kids in diaspora. I want to talk about all of you now parents. You're all of you now raising kids who have friends, who have peers, who are in schools themselves, who are mixing with people, with children who are not Black. What has been your experience? Do you think? Let me start with this. These are the questions for all the parents. In Kiru, I know, the situation. Just let me know what you need to do in the back end. You know how we do this.
Okay.
So, what do we tell our kids? Here now, the parents in diaspora. Do we say to them, sure, you could be president if you wanted to be? Or do we say to them, you got to work harder, you got to wake up earlier, you've got to run farther, is there some kind of subconscious way we're saying to our kids that the odds are stacked against them? That's question number one. Number two, what does the outside world tell our kids? I'm talking about media, TV, their peers, the things they watch, the things they listen to, the Netflix, the whatever. And do you see it reflecting in your kid? Do you see your child? Do you look at your child and think, this child already sees the difference, already knows the difference? So I'm just curious for the parents, what do you instill in your children when it comes to, is there something in you that makes you think that your child is already at a disadvantage or not? Do you just absolutely believe it's a level playing field and raise your child accordingly? Before I continue, there is someone who has joined us. Telephone number ending 6347. Omosholabumi, is that you?
That's me. Yeah.
Hey! Shola.
I was telling the work though. I was telling 300.
Oh, no wonder. Because when you were like, you can't log in, I was like, I don't know what to tell you again. Or is the number I've given you? So, thank you.
I'm so sorry. Apologies.
Thank you so much for joining us. We've been having so much fun, but we're actually getting to the serious part now, so you can actually join us. Nkiru, do what you need to do.
Yes,
so let me start with Shola Alabi. Shola, do you think it is a level playing field or not? And is there a way that you kind of subtly let your children know that? Or do you point blank say, see, Bobby, you have to work hard. You have to do, because you're a Black child. They're not going to give you opportunities. These things are not going to get handed to you.
I would not. I am a very positive person. I'll start with that. But I'll just share a story or a scenario of, whilst I was in school. I'll come back to my own personal kids in a minute. But when I was in school as a middle leader, as a classroom teacher, I used to see particular boys. I taught in inner London, in Canning Town, for a number of years. Okay. So, of course, that the population of Black kids in that area is quite high. And I mean, so I didn't have situations whereby some of the children, especially the boys, are out of the lesson when they're meant to be in their lessons. One, because obviously they've been classed as being disruptive. And when I have this particular kids or some of them in my classes, they're as good as gold, So that raised a little bit of concern for me. And I know that I raised it with the head of department or one of the other senior leaders within school. And excuse me, and then I was being asked to sometimes go in and support teachers that were white teachers, with these black boys. And one thing that I'd noticed was because, some of the reasons are because most of these boys, are very, very highly intelligent, very, very quick, fast, so they become restless quickly because they're not being challenged or they're not being pushed or, but then what I then did, and I took upon myself for a number of these boys, was I communicated with home, because one, the kids were actually were missing out from their learning because during a lesson, the teachers, I would say, do not know how to manage them because they're very bright boys. They become restless and then they start misbehaving in the lessons. So I did communicate with home, and I gave them a few strategies that, of course, yes, then they need to, contact the teachers and say this, that they could stretch them or they could, so that they behave and they get through.
Sorry to interrupt you. 2 questions for you. Number 1, why did they behave in your class? Because they're the same level of brightness in your class as they are in the white person's class. Number 2, are there no bright white children who the level of their brightness made them restless? Why can a white child be bright and sit down quietly and listen to the lesson, whereas I got these black kids being disruptive, being whatever, and we're like, oh, it's because they're so bright, they're easily bored, and so therefore that's why they act the way they do, and then as a result of them acting the way they do, they get locked out, they're marginalized, and then they stay out of the class because they end up hurting themselves.
I know that. I did know that was going to come up, Rachel, and I know that one of the other teachers also raised that same question because there was a forum where we had to discuss or deal with these issues that went on for a number of weeks. And what some of the kids, because of course, for some of the black boys said was, when James or when James or when Brian, they would say, oh, can you support? So, it would be a case of, oh, he's a bright boy, he can support somebody else, so they equip them with a leadership or a role for them to play within the lesson, if that makes any sense. But when it comes to their case, because this were the kids that were actually saying what happens during the lessons, but when it comes to their turn, by the time that they express that, oh, Miss, we've done that already, or Miss, I know that, it's a case of you're disrupting the lesson, go outside. Does that make sense? So does that answer the question in a way, Rachel? So it could be a case of the approach, and this is what I say to these boys as well. Because some of them I did mentor them. I did say the approach sometimes gets you in trouble. So it's a case of you. But because there's already been walls built, so that their action sometimes lets them down, So, yes, the white boys, maybe their approach is completely different, but the black, how...
What do you mean by approach? Are you telling me the teachers might the white teachers might approach the white boys differently?
The kids. The way the black, so sometimes the way they would, oh, Miss, we've done that already, Sometimes the way... But because I guess I understand them, and I guess they understand me as well, so they don't mess about in my lessons. They're cool, they're calm. But some of the other teachers may not fully understand how to, relate with them. But the approach of the kids, the students, sometimes might be a bit off-putting, and that's why they get sent out straight away.
Which completely surprises me, because I thought we pride ourselves in King Bagbere, mi ò lè lọ́mọ kó máa pariwo in class. My child cannot be the child that is disruptive. If I hear that I have a disruptive child, I thought actually black kids might be the I thought maybe white kids might be the ones more spoiled. White kids might be the ones who are more likely to shout out in class.
There are different approaches. There are different extremes. There's that extreme, of parents who would, you dare not, and there is the other extreme of parents where, it's a case of antagonizing the teachers. I mean, I've had experiences of both, to be honest with you, so there's two extremes. So it depends on which extreme or which part that child that child comes from.
So let me ask you a question. I think Omashola Bomi wants to say something. Omashola, give me just 1 minute. Now, you've spoken of your capacity as a teacher. As a parent, please answer the question. Do you think the average black child is at a disadvantage? And if you do think so, do you somehow communicate this with I'm not talking about your students now, I'm talking about your children that you had. Is there anything you communicate with your children to this effect? Or do you actually think there's no disadvantage anywhere, there's no prejudice anywhere, everybody has an equal opportunity at anything they want to do in this life?
What I have always told my children, what we've told them is, whatever you want to become. My daughter has always said right from a very young age that she wants to become a politician, and we have supported and done everything we can. Of course, she has to work hard. Everybody, excuse me, you'd have to work hard, you have to work smart. So we've always made sure that we created opportunities for her to work hard, to access the best schools, to do her best, to do their best, to get into the right environment. And that's what I expect every parent, that's what I expect every parent to do to support their children, So I have not sat her down or sat them down, although, I've had conversations in the past where she would say to me, oh, blah, 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 but I've always said, you have earned your place and your position, and you have every right to be there. It doesn't matter what anybody feels or anybody says. So I think it's just, like I said earlier on, I'm a very positive person. We face the facts, we deal with situations, and we move on, we go for it. So I wouldn't say to her, you cannot access that, or you have to really work harder than you have to work hard. Onje, you have to work hard. If that's where you want to go, if that's what you want to do, yes, we'll give you our support. And yes, we're going to do everything we need to do to get you there.
Okay, thank you. So, Omashola Bomi, please. Rachel, start running downstairs. Omashola Bomi, please come through.
Hi. I'll go back to the case where Shola was talking about the boys in the classroom behaving in our class as opposed to the white teacher's class. In my experience, I think it's to do with kids that the black kids know that you're a black woman. You must say the crap. That is there. Simple like that. They know. And as for them as well, know that you might know somebody that knows their parents. You know an uncle knows one church somewhere that will know somebody that will know their parents. And the last thing they want. It's true, I'm telling you, I'll give you an example. In my kids, I'm telling you, you're laughing a lot. In my kids' primary school, where when a Nigerian woman joined, the first black woman they joined the school, it's a very small school. In my daughter, when she was in year 5, my student class, there was only 4 black kids in the class. And the 4 black kids, 3 of them are Nigerian and 1 Ghanaian. Anyway, this woman joined the school. And the first thing my daughter asked me when she saw me saying hello to the woman, do you know her mom? I don't know her from anywhere. I know her.
Okay, so it has to do with that. There's a look a black mother has that is the look the black mother has, whether it's your mother or not. You don't try your black teacher in school. Rachel Yankee, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
So don't break anything. Okay. Okay, so you wanted to come in. Rachel actually lives in America, so I would love to hear your take on this.
So to answer your question, I'm going to answer the question from the perspective of a mother and an immigrant. I would say yes, my kids were disadvantaged for a couple of reasons. The first one is I did not understand the education system. Okay. And what you don't understand, you cannot navigate. And that's a problem that many of us have.
Yes.
And actually, I still continue to say my oldest daughter remains disadvantaged because I'm growing with her and learning with her. The other two will benefit from this knowledge that I have gained in walking through this process with her. I don't. She's the first one going through the system. I don't understand how it works. I don't understand the scholarship opportunities that are there. I don't understand the different schools that are available. Just like in Nigeria, we have the federal government system. I don't understand all of these things, and there isn't a central place to get this information. And I am smart, but when I go on that Department of Education website, I don't understand jack shit of what they put up there.
Okay.
There isn't anything to break it down. I'm not a teacher. I'm not into education. So it's very complex and confusing. So yes, the children of immigrants are disadvantaged for that very first reason. The other problem why I say many of them are disadvantaged is because we don't have time for our children. We're chasing that dollar pound. So we don't have time for them.
Okay.
And because we don't have time, we're not able to learn. So that's why I say that. But on the flip side, again, there is disadvantage because of the race and all that story. But I never tell my kids that they cannot be what they want to be. But I also do not hide the truth from them, which is it's a bit tougher for you out there, but you can overcome that. And you have to do the work. You have to do the work. There's no ifs, ands, and buts. You are getting your 90s, you're getting your 100s, you're coming in with your A's. My daughter is always like, but mommy, 80, you don't work. You go to school, you read, you sleep, you eat. So, honey, you're giving me the A's. And they know that there is no... But what I also do, which I think I learned from my parents, is also to look for the strengths in my kids. Like I've got one that's talkative. She's going to be a lawyer. I knew that when she was 5. I said, okay, this one needs to stand in front of a judge. I've got the other one, as she grew older, I said, okay, it looks like this one is more into fashion. Her strength is not in the sciences. Her strength is not in math.
I just love you, Rachel. Thank you. I love you for that,
I'm not disappointed when, she comes home in her math with a 70. Because I was the child that told my mother when I was taking my WAEC, Mommy, I will get A1 in biology, I'll get A1 in chemistry, I'll pass the other ones. But you see, math and physics, Babala 8-9, it doesn't matter. I knew. So I wanted that for my kids. So, so that's what I do for my kids. But yeah, the disadvantage is there because I don't understand the system, and I'm not ashamed to say that because it's confusing.
And I think we need to take this moment to say that exactly it's very different from what we grew up in. So if you are tabula rasa, you're a completely clean slate, and the only system you know is the Oyinbo system, you will learn to navigate that system. If you have to unlearn certain things and then relearn certain things in a situation where in Nigeria, if you don't want to serve, you don't serve. You pay somebody something and you sit your ass in Lagos and that's that. If they go to certain schools, these are the only schools that are available. Here in the UK, you have to deal with catchment areas. You have to deal with your postcode. You have to deal with what school is close. There's so many things that is completely alien to what we knew. If you and I are talking about the same Nigeria and you are talking about school sets and I'm talking about SSCE, imagine the difference in having to navigate a system in another country. So I can imagine how that alone impedes how we can help our children. That alone. So let's talk about that for a minute, because this show is not just to count all the things that are wrong. Would we then say to the parents in the house, is there some benefit for there to maybe be a website set up by an immigrant, something that breaks it down, something that tells parents, see, fashi all that thing you read on that education, Ministry of Education book. This is what you need to know. This is what you need to know. This is where you need to live. This is the best school.
I'll take it a step further. Sorry, I'll take it a step further, more than the website. We need an integration, a place that helps people integrate into society. to say, you see all that thing they are telling you is for Igbo people and people that were born here. You just came from Nigeria. This is the past. This was what we need something like that because it makes a lot of difference
in our language. Quote
settling
unquote.
down. It makes a lot of in our language to say, Mashebe, go this way. Don't buy a house in that neighborhood. The education, because for us, when you're looking for a house, you're looking at is the school system great here? What services do they have? Do I have a kid? Do I have a kid with special needs? How much do they spend for kids with special needs? If you've got an autistic child and you go into a neighborhood that budgets $2 per disabled child, you're in shit. You're in trouble.
Because the thing is, not just being a foster carer or being a parent, because I've got 2 young boys, 6 and 8. But I don't know what happened there, but when you like to do ITK, you want to do ITK, you don't know what happened. I ended up being parent governor in the school, my children's school. I'm actually a parent governor in the school.
Okay, so what does that mean? What is the responsibility?
A parent governor is basically decisions being made by the school. You will be part of all the meetings, the finance meeting, the curriculum meeting, any meeting. I am part of it. So I know what goes on in the school before it hits the students, mostly. So, like we went in, you know how we were talking about how we did maths in Nigeria. When they say divide, they put long division. They'll put
chunking method.
You know that box they will draw, and they'll put the numbers in and divide. They've got a system for the children that's totally different. When my son did it, I looked at him, I said to him, why are you doing that way? Let me show you the way I did it in Nigeria. I went all Nigeria on him. I said, come, my friend, this way is too long. Come, let me show you simple, draw line.
Straightforward.
Draw line.
In space for me. So I looked at him like, oh my God. So when I went into the governor's meeting, they now said to us, the curriculum is different. I went into workshops for math for the year. And when I went into these workshops, I sat in the workshop, I was gobsmacked. May I use Oyibo? I was gobsmacked at the difference in the way they teach them to the way we learned it.
Yeah. Can I say why?
Go on, darling.
Because, of course, with the primary school trained teachers, anybody can, well, not anybody, but you can be a history teacher and be a primary school, be a history graduate and be a primary school trained teacher.
Yeah.
So, of course, somebody who has not limited knowledge, but who is not really solid in the sciences or in maths can actually end up being a classroom teacher for a primary school or what. So they would teach the methods they're comfortable, or of course they would just go through whatever the curriculum, how it's been taught. So that's why there's all those different methods that they use to teach the children, because of course if you then go on and use the short division method, the teacher might look strange because they've never ever seen or done it that way before. So that's why they have the set curriculum which you have to teach. And I know that at different year groups, they would have to use the different methods. They would still go through all the methods, but it would be done at different years. So like in year 1, they could use, they use the number line. Year 2, they could use the column method. Year 3, they could use, the number square and so on and so forth. And the kids end up being confused, Yes. So being a parent governor, like inquiry, sorry,
It's all right, Inkiru, don't worry. Oh, listen, darling, don't worry. I blame my parents. Go on.
Sorry, because I've laughed so much tonight. Like you're involved in policy making. You can actually, you're part of the policy making and within the school, But the problem would be if there are no specialist teachers or experts in that subject, nobody will be able to teach that method. So that's why it's kept the same and taught that way.
Can I come in here, please? Can I come in here, please?
Yes.
I need us at all. I don't want to talk about, because I'm just looking at the time, I don't really want to talk about things that are the same for every child, black, white, pink. If they've changed the way that they teach long division, but they have changed it for all the kids, that's not necessarily a problem. I'm just saying, if our children are at a disadvantage in certain things, like we're talking about disruptive kids in class, we're talking about kids sitting outside smoking at the back of the club, we're talking about necessarily parents who, and I've seen this before, parents who have a very strict hold on their kids and don't know that their kids are the ones who are playing hooky, don't know that their kid is the school bully, don't know that their kid is the one who, the second that child walks out of class, walks out of the home, is the school tyrant or whatever. How do we make a difference? So I've really loved one idea now when we're talking about, could we say that the certain websites, certain what shall I call it now, resources that are supposed to be meant to help parents, quote unquote, supposed to help, are, let's just say, obfuscating and not by accident. They are not necessarily the easiest to navigate on purpose. They're written in a certain way that if you are not from here, if you don't understand the nuances, if you haven't lived here long enough to say, this thing they're writing, it doesn't mean this thing, or it means go and register your child on time, or whatever the case may be, then would it perhaps make sense for us to have like somebody like Shola who actually understands the system to say, my friend, 5-year-old, that one, that's not important. Make sure that by age 5, this child, let us get together, for example. This is something I would be interested in doing, something that Nkiru would be interested in doing. You already work hand in hand with the educational system. Let's do a resource for the Black parent who just needs help understanding and untangling and knowing all the resources that are available. Because I ran a business for about 10 years. And it was only when I started going to, breakfast meetings, now, which I always used to loathe because I thought it used to be pot-bellied men with bad breaths that would sit down and talk about I just couldn't. Plus, I'm not a morning person anyway. And these breakfast meetings were typically at 7:30 in the morning. God knows why. But then I went to a couple and I found out that, oh my gosh, where Oyibo people sit down and discuss, Hey, come and hear of grants and funding and things that you've never. Oh yeah, my friend Benny, yeah. Oh yeah, he works at Citizens Advice, yeah, and he reckons you can get 15% off if you was to just. I'm like, your friend Benny, you're quiet, no problem. So so now from today, Benny will also be my friend. So there's things that there seems to very much be some kind of old boys club. There seems to be some kind of gated community when it comes to information that we just don't have. And this leads to the disadvantage. And it is not by accident that we don't have this information. It is not by accident that a lot of this information, like Shola says, she's very optimistic, as am I. But I don't believe that people are laying everything flat out for us. I just don't believe that. I don't believe it. I think there are cheat modes. There are things that will come when you work smarter and not necessarily work harder. So let's talk about if there is a gap. How do we bridge this gap? Omoshola Bomi has just joined us once again. So let me see if I can get her into the studio. Omoshola, can you hear me?
I can hear you. I dropped off. I don't know what happened.
But I'm calling your full name because we have two Sholas here. So what do you think we can do as parents, as sisters? So somebody here is commenting, the society was not created with immigrants in mind, which is very true and which we have to take note of. Yep. What do you think we can do as parents, as teachers, as neighbors, as, I don't know if you heard, Nkiru was saying she's actually, what is the name of what you do? Governor's board?
Parent governor.
Parent governor.
Yep.
So she's a parent
governor.
Yeah. So give me one or two things. Let's throw ideas out. What can we do because they're not going to change their system for us. They're not going to change their system for my child. They're not going to change it for my black baby. They're not going to make my life easier or his life easier or her life easier. So what can we do to, if we can't take advantage of the system, is there a way around the system? Moshalabome, please talk to me.
We just need to be part of the system. I mean, as NQ is, that's fantastic. A lot of boys are not involved. We see on the outside, we see on our hands, and expect things to be handed to us. A lot of these parents in this country have this mentality of attachment. It's ridiculous. And I see a lot of kids that this child has got potential. But the parents are saying, hey, he's going to school. He's going to school. What do you know about the school he goes to? That's the biggest thing. They will believe that it's the government job to educate our kids. That's when we stop at parents. We send them to school at 8:45 and send them up at 3:30, and that is it. We don't get involved. I said to a lot of my parents that
I've heard the parents actually say that. I've heard the parents say, "Shema to balo school ni, shebi mo shati." I've actually heard that before.
In my kids' school, they have this thing where they have like a parent come in and come and read, and come and play a game, card game, any sort of game with them, and you see the black kids, the black parents, they don't come, and it angers me so much that. The ones I know, I'll call them. You're coming. You have to come. And so you have to come. It's just ridiculous. The wife, the parents will be like, "Hey, when you don't have a job, your first job is your child."
Yes,
absolutely.
Getting wrong. Your first job is your child.
Absolutely. Can I just come in? I mean, can I just say something as well? I mean, my message, to be honest with you, is a parent is the number one teacher in a child's life.
Yes.
The parent is, I mean, I know that, of course, as parents, we need to fend for a living, we need to put the roof over the heads of our children, but at the end of the day, I mean, to raise a successful child, we have to get involved. We have to move mountains on behalf of our children. I mean, I would say I was a parent governor in my child's primary school as well for 2 years. And also, I mean, I supported my child in school for 3 years. I used to go in on my day off on Fridays for 3 years while he was in primary school. Why? Because there was a little bit of an issue with him settling into the new school he started or he joined, and it was in areas of his confidence. So, I mean, that's my message, and I'd agree with what Shola said as well, or Moshola said as well, that we need to show our faces. We need to get involved, because these things sometimes are actually spoken about in school, and we're not there. So we would be.
I mean, let me give you a scenario. I volunteer with my daughter. She's in year 9 now at secondary school. My kids go to boarding school. They're very far away from home. And parents with me, not parents, first session, okay, I thought, let me go along. When she was year 7, I said, let me go out. Of course, my older daughter, I was, for 6 years, I was there. Okay, this one is very far. I mean, twice the term, I would try down there anyway. I wasn't volunteer. And when I went there, I said, to my dad, and the place said to me, I said, you're the first ethnic minority parent. I said, well, I said black, it's fine, I'm not going to be offended. He said, you're the first, I said, what would you like to do? I said, I want to be a house rep. That's the parents that were representing the house of my child. And when I told the house mistress, she was excited. And this is the house that got a few black kids in the house. Fair enough, my daughter is a black girl in a year. So you can still see the excitement in the faces. And I got my child thinking to myself, you send your child to this school, you pay X amount of money for their education, and you cannot get involved. You cannot go and practice doing divisions. It's not asking you to come and be the accountant, the treasurer. They're not asking you to give 8 hours
so much time.
It's like 2 hours every 6 weeks. I know.
So, is it fair to say that?
Because the thing is,
go ahead,
Rach, you know, like my boys at school, where I'm parent governor, yeah?
Yeah.
What it is, like the workshops I was talking to you about.
Yeah.
They used to hold workshops for different years. So every year, year 1 to 6, they hold workshops in English, reading and writing skills, handwriting, English, handwriting skills, maths, and like verbal reasoning and stuff. Because verbal reasoning now, another thing now. But the thing is, those workshops, because obviously my sons are in year 1 and year 3, I focused on going for I made sure for the 3 workshops I signed up, I was there. Me, I'm a hands-on mom. I am as nosy as the next cat. I'm always in everything. I'm like a pro in anything goes on in that school. So when it was time for the workshops, I actually said to the parents, you know, when they're doing the workshops, it starts at 9 o'clock. So school starts, workshop 1 hour. Parents are walking out, and I look at them and like, are you not coming for this workshop? Because I know your child is in my son's class. This is year 1's workshop. Come for this workshop. Because don't be phoning my phone. Because I get phone calls from parents asking me, that you know homework they gave your son and our children in the class. Do you know what it's about? I go to them, were you in the workshop? Because if you're in the workshop, you understand the system and how it works. But parents, they disconnect. They just want to drop their children in school, palm them off to somebody else to teach them and go away. Go and buy shoe or bag or go and have lunch with some mate down the road. That's not the point. If you have kids in school, you've got to be a part of it to be able to understand the system, how it works. Because if you don't blame anybody when your child starts playing the fool. Don't blame anybody. Because once the child starts
I find it
I'm not just a parent governor. I am the chair of PTA. I say my amebo has escalated to heights of unknown. I am in everything. Nothing goes on in that school I don't know. Teachers come to me rather than go and read newsletter. Parents come to me and ask me, when is school closing? When is school opening? What are they? Is it non-uniform day tomorrow? And I'm like, really? Are you kidding me right now? Your child is in that school. Be a part of it. Your child is your life. Where you put your child. Imagine you're handing your child over to a teacher for 6 hours of that child's life in the day, and then you're not involved. How stupid is that? Don't make no sense to me. And then you worry when your child doesn't do well or he doesn't get the appointed job he wants. When he wasn't progressing in school, you were not there to help. Like I said to my boy,
all right, ladies.
Inkiri, 1 minute, please. 1 minute, please. Dolapo, go ahead.
Well, I mean, I'm listening to you ladies, and I'm getting the feeling that is the UK system over there. In Canada here, at least when I got here, and it might be similar to the US a little bit. When I got here, especially when it comes to high school, high school here basically is grade 9. I mean grade 10.
Okay.
Excuse me, 9, 10, 11, 12, 4 years. Okay. Now, what happens is that when you get into high school, and these kids go into high school, there are 3 parts. And one thing with the Canadian system, which might be similar to some states in the U.S., is that you don't fill a class. You just keep moving up till it's a factory. They just keep moving you down the assembly line, and then you're off with a certificate. You finish high school. Now the problem is that there are 3 paths for them to follow. One of them takes you to college, but it's more of like a vocational schooling after high school. The other is going to college, which is basically like in the U.S. a community college. We just call them colleges here. And then you have the university path. The mistake I made with my firstborn, with my son, was because we also knew, we didn't understand until we just basically read it somewhere where we saw that he was being put on a vocational path. And we had to stump, me and the mother had to stump the school and say, what the hell is going on here? Yes, I know this boy is a little bit, behind on a lot of things. And his being behind is not because he's not smart. He's left-handed, so he never really got around to writing notes and everything because nobody could teach him handwriting. I mean, I'm right-handed. You can't teach a left-handed person how to write. And it was difficult for us, so he kind of fell behind on that. And for that reason, and I really have to point out, especially in the U.S., realize that majority of the prison system are private enterprises, for profit, listed on the New York Stock Exchange. So they actually need commodities, that is convicts. So guess what? For a young black boy, a little something that a white boy might get away with, he will get written up for it.
Yes.
And this is where he starts from. The next before he gets to grade 12, he already had maybe a couple of write-ups, a couple of suspensions. He's just, and the next thing you know, they start calling the police into issues that happen in school. He gets a police record, and next thing you know, the next time he does something really stupid in college, like say maybe he went drinking with a couple of buddies, he already has a record. He stands before a judge. He gets 6 months in jail.
That's all you need. You've started your road. You've started the path.
That's why.
So I was very, very reluctant to touch the American system because we know you have layers different from the average disadvantaged black child. You also have point blank blatant racism. You will do everything the right way. You teach your child, you will train your child, you get involved in all the school system, you will make sure that child sits at home and finishes their homework, and then your child will still get shots for being the wrong color, basically. So
my
I
biggest
know,
worry for
I
my
know.
son was not that hanging. My biggest worry for him was I just had to make sure he was not one of those boys growing up that was hanging with friends on street corners and everything like that. Because you know what? If he can check that and put that out of his life, I know that everything else will work out
Everything
right
else
for
will
him.
be, the influences.
You know,
The
I
right
had to go and I
influence.
had the guardian counselor telling me that,
Wow.
don't worry, your son will graduate. I'm not sure if he will be the first to finish high school in your family. And me and my wife were like that with our mouth open, like,
Oh, wow.
oh,
Wow.
excuse me? The mother is an accountant. I have a master's in financial management. You're telling me what? No, you need
that's
to put
also
this
the
boy
American
back
way.
on the right path.
Yes.
Which is, but can he handle it? I said, yes, he can.
Excuse you.
Now the boy did not just go to college for just a regular 2 years. He went for a 3-year advanced diploma. Now he has 2 more years. He's going on to university to finish his degree.
This is the child that they wanted to give to make a vocational. But again, let's go back because we have to stay.
Rachel, sorry,
Okay,
can I
1
come
minute,
in here?
please. One at a time, please.
Yes.
Rachel, Shola, please, just 1 minute.
Yes.
Rachel Yankee, please come in quickly.
Okay, so I wanted to connect the latter statement to my earlier comment about understanding the system, and that's why I say we are disadvantaged. It's much more than understanding the curriculum. How does it work? I sent you a comment on WhatsApp. As an immigrant parent, you have to be very active. You might not be able to attend all of the milestone achievements, but you need to know the teachers, have the phone numbers, emails, everything. You need to be a phone call away and a hop and step away from that school. If
And from what I'm hearing, you also have to be proactive, because if you nap on the
very proactive. So, my kid understands that. I keep bringing it to my kid. There is no expectation of privacy between what happens in school and here. I am on the phone, I'm on the emails. I may not show up every day, but I knew everything that was going on in there because I would be damned with one system. The expectation here is most black people don't go to college. Black kids finish high school and we shut down the street throwing a party. Parents give their kids a $25,000 car for finishing high school. Where I come from, you've done jack shit. You finish high school, so what happened?
You've just started.
You just started. That is the perception.
You've just started.
So a huge achievement.
So I think when we're saying understanding the system, we're not just saying understanding the curriculum. We're saying understanding that the system might not necessarily be built with you in mind, and you need to work your way around that. You need to own that and say, see, these people don't send me, and they sure as heck don't send my child. So I need to be sure that everything.
You don't want to beat your child down. You want to help your child understand that.
Absolutely.
Okay, I love it.
You have to understand there are a lot of things that are going into when you're talking about the kids' school. For my son now, I mean, Rachel we've met and Kira we've met. My son is at least a good 2 inches taller than me. All right, he's going to be 22 now, and the biggest fight I have with him because he's an introvert. He's a techie. As far as I call his nickname, I call him because he lives in the basement of my house. You never see him unless he comes up to eat. He doesn't even come up to eat. He just comes up, open the fridge, grab his food, and go into the basement.
And disappears.
If you go into the basement, it's dark except the glow from all the computer screens, like 5 of them. That's all you see. But you wouldn't know that about him if you see him on the street, because he loves his hoodies, he loves it. And I try to talk to him about that, like, you know what?
Stereotyping.
You love what you're doing.
Stereotyping.
People see you, and the first impression they have of you is you're a beast. And I don't care if you're in school. That's why I tell him when he goes to school, I mean, when he was in college, I tell him, you know what? Be there every single class. Oh, some other guys don't even come to class. I don't care about that. You be there.
Matter.
Let the lecturers see you every day. Let them recognize you to the point that, you know what? They will be worried if they don't see you in class.
If you're not there. Well done. Done.
You know, that you have to do 120% where 100% is demanded. You go 20% and above. Because you are a young black man.
Yes.
That's it. I mean, I tell my kids all the time, look at your skin color. I don't care what anybody says. I'm positive. I'd like to let them know. Not Rachel, I went to Rachel. I said, Susie, for instance. Susie, why Susie? She's average. You need to be well above average to be on the same playing as Susie. That's as simple as that. And you were like it, all this racial equality and nonsense. So it's all on paper.
Yes.
Whether we like it or not, it's all paper. When it comes down to it, the child needs to be that one extra. It has to be that. When that's a young
They have to be on top of their game. Absolutely.
Yeah, you have to be.
They have to be on top of their game.
You have to be. Yeah, you have to be. You have to be.
So, we are saying that you are already at a disadvantage. We are saying that actually we, the parents, and understanding the system, we are at a disadvantage. Our child is at a disadvantage. I really love Dolapo's example of that's how they would have sent my child to vocational class and I wouldn't have known because you think the child is in the same school, is in the same class, he hasn't dropped out, he wears uniform and he goes every day, so you assume he's in school, but they have already put your child in a box. They have already made clear to your child this is all he can become. So it is up to us to be proactive in say what is going on, why is my child in this class and not in this class, and what. So if you have a child, like what Dolapo was saying, for example, that this child is left-handed, so for a long time he didn't like to write notes, so he was a little bit behind or whatever, then we come back to the parents. If your child is lacking in some way, I want to talk to Omoshola Bomi, I want to talk to Shola now. Would you say this is where you narrow the gap once you sense a deficiency of some sort or anything that could hold the child back, as it were? So this is the main problem with this now. Over here in the UK, it's the same in Canada, it's the same in the US. The child does not repeat the class. So this child will continue going on, and you're going to end up with a child who can barely string a sentence together, who can barely solve a maths question or whatever the case may be. So you have to be a proactive parent. We've already heard that part about, you need to be involved in your child's school. But I'm now talking about once you have sensed a weakness or a flaw, or what can a parent do? How can you narrow that gap and give your child that extra help?
I mean, there's of course the first step would be to identify that there's a weakness or there's something that needs to be dealt with, and there is support that one can tap into, although it would not be made clear, but there's a budget for special education needs. So it's also down to the parents again. I mean, I would just keep going back to this, that you need to fight for what is available. As it's available to A, it also has to be made accessible to B as well. So you need to get support. You need to look for support. You need to get, look for whatever is available to help to support your child in any way. So, you'd have to, nobody will say, oh gosh, this is there or this is available. You have to go and find, and then you have to, of course, apply for it, or
sometimes bang on the door until it is available. Sometimes you have to say, listen, my child is, has special needs in this area. You actually are marginalizing my child by not making certain things. I mean, how did we start to have wheelchair ramps all over the place? One person wanted to climb upstairs and only had wheelchairs. So you keep shouting until it becomes a law, until it becomes a policy, until it becomes... And I think there seems to be, on the one hand, I completely understand what Omoshola Bomi is saying about a sense of entitlement in a lot of Nigerian parents. But on the other hand, I think there is also a sense of, what's the word I want to use? Something like over gratitude, like that we're even here, that we don't even have this kind of thing in our country. We mustn't pick up a fuss. We mustn't, we just have to make do with what we have. We just have to make... Go ahead, please.
Rachel,
yes.
I mean, I've had an experience where my daughter was year 4, and in March was way ahead of year 4. Obviously, that's now become an issue where the teaching them says starting an answer act in class. And I go, now she came home with her, Miss Chanel said I'm fine. And I said, Miss Chanel said, you're what? You're bossy, you're this in front of everybody in class. So I'm not supposed
Sorry, the miss said what?
I told myself to the teacher. Miss said I'm overbearing, I know too much, I'm knowing it all in front of everybody. And she's a child that's very sensitive, and the teacher said that in front of everybody else in class. I think it was a teacher. I went to the head teacher. So what? We need to move her from that class in math. We need to move her to a different class. And she was like, well, we only have 1 year for group. I said, I know that. But if she's already done what they're doing in this class, you need to move her somewhere else. And throughout the year, moved her a year ahead, and she was fine. She was doing maths with a bigger year than she was, and she was fine. And I realized that if I didn't come home and said, oh, you should let this one so, she would have been in this class, making trouble.
With the teacher who thinks she's a troublemaker. Yeah.
Exactly. Troublemaker. And a year after I went to school, I was having the same problem. But she didn't tell me. She told somebody else, that somebody else said something to me that, oh, Mercedes did this. And I said, yeah, I did. I said, oh, well, she went to the teacher and said, they can't do it. He said, tell them, don't go and ask. You're asking questions. You're asking them. And when I go, let her. I'm telling you, I want. If you go there and say, oh, can I help? I'm not asking you. I'm telling you what we need to do for my child. If you don't see that we need to do this for my child, I will tell you what we need to do. And I've tried to this many times like this. If you don't do what we need, we need to work together. So that's me, you, the child, and I, the triangle. We need to work together. And I think a lot of parents actually, which she said, a lot of parents say, oh, yeah, I don't want to go and hold the boat. What if they victimize my child?
I've heard that before. They victimize the child. Yeah. Parents being scared of that.
It makes the child feel bad. Exactly. But then you have to have dialogue with your child where anything happens in school. Yeah, we tell you at home. Yes, that's it. And I think, come back again to what I'm saying about parents. And somebody said earlier on that you're the first teacher. You have to have a child back, no matter what.
Yes.
And I think a lot of us, they will say, school will phone up and say, oh, Yinka, something in the playground. And before we head the child's side, we will shout at the child from the playground. You did what?
Which is actually the opposite, because white parents will say, you can't tell me my child cannot wear their hair to school like this. You can't tell me my child cannot, I've seen something in the paper, albeit the Daily Mail, where the Daily Mail was like,
uniform.
Uniform. That the boy wanted to wear a skirt or something. And I'm like, it's ridiculous. Yes, it's out of all the things, you are not worried about the child's performance or anything. You want your child to be wearing skirts to school. And it's, there's a whole bunch of stuff we could argue about. But unless it is clear that this child has some sort of problem and this child is being disruptive, the parents should be on the child's side. The parents should.
The child being disruptive.
Well, parents should be on their child all the time.
You still have to play your part.
Yes.
We cannot take enough.
I was going to say that as well. As I was going to add that as well. That of course, as the parent, you would know your child. I mean, I would. I know both. I know my two. I know the two. I know them. Well enough. And if I go into school and they give me some kind of report, and I know that, I'd say, okay, we'll have a word, and I would get back to you. But if I know that, I'd say to absolutely not. I know that this person would not do this. There must be something missing somewhere, or there might be some. So if it's a case of the child, or the child to be who they are, and they tell you, and you'd obviously, then of course that's pointless. So it has to be a case of knowing your child.
Also, there's this thing. I don't know. For the lady, Shalan, I think you guys are in London. I'm not sure, but there's when my daughter was my daughter is 24 now. But when my daughter was in secondary school, and her final year was year 13, I'd be year 12. One of the two. I can't remember.
Yeah, 11.
Teachers were actually telling students, and these comments were being directed more at the black kids than at the white ones. No, I don't pull the race card, but when you want to pull it with me, I know how to take it with you. But they were being told, that they do this apprenticeship. No, you want to go to university? Do you want to, when my daughter came home, luckily, and I say luckily very, very, I say very carefully, luckily the teacher that did that did not venture near my own child that they call Vivian, because the next day, I would have been in the school from 9 a.m. to find the teacher, to ask the teacher where they cut off, telling children in general, why would you tell a child to go to? And these are kids that they were doing well in school, but as far as teacher was concerned, you'll be better off doing an apprenticeship. Now, this is the thing. I put in my kids from day dot. Don't say you can't in anything. Say you can. Or I'm not sure. Say I must. We don't have I can't. All the negative I can't, I'm not sure. We don't do that. I don't want to hear it. I'm not saying I push them. But you need to think positive at all times. No matter how bad things are, there's always something good. Like
this is exactly what Dolapo was saying. His son was about to end up in a vocational class. Because of, boys big, black, and quiet.
I use my 8-year-old as an example. He did a sum in class. My son is, I don't know how to explain. I don't want to say perfect, but my son is like brilliant to a point where he's only in year 3, but he has been put in year 5 to do maths with year 5 in school, not in lesson, in the school. They take him from his class, put him in year 5.
Oh, no.
In the school for a year 3 pupil. Now, what happened is my son hit a brick wall one day with a sum. I think it was a division or something in his class. He froze, literally froze, locked out. People were talking to him. He got annoyed at the fact that people were paying too much attention to him because he had done wrong. He started crying. My son doesn't cry for no reason. He cries when things are difficult. But what I did was, luckily, I had this video of Richard Branson. Yes, fine, he's white. But I had a video of Richard Branson. At 16, Richard Branson realized he had dyslexia. Thrown out of school, I showed him, I said, you see, there's nothing impossible for you. If he can do it, so can you. So it's just one maths problem, not the whole of your life. I said to him, you're still in year 3. Because the thing is, our kids need encouragement. Yes. They need encouragement. They need that love. They need that support. Without that, kids tend to fall by the wayside. The kids in London here, there are so many now. The parents that live in London, you see it now, Abby. The kids here, so many of them. I worry because I can't understand what went wrong. Some of them, their parents are, 8 o'clock, they're out of the house, they come back by 6. I had a friend of my daughter. She would leave in the morning to go to work. She's a bus driver. When she leaves in the morning to go to work, she leaves her daughter to sleep and goes, don't forget to go to school. You need to go to school this morning. She comes back at 6. So don't forget, school is from 9 to 3:15. The chick does not wake up from her bed. She knows her mom is out. She won't go to school. As I speak, I think she's got 2 kids now. My daughter's age.
Oh, the girl that didn't go to school.
The girl that didn't go to school, when her mother goes to work, because her mom comes back at 6 and leaves at 8 to 6, school is 9 to 3. So her mother would never catch her out. She never went to school. Never went to school.
But what's going on? What's going on with the? I thought they said, if you're playing hooky or something, if you're playing truant, you get a letter or whatever.
Yeah, you do. I mean, you would. Well, it's actually been really they've been enforced now for many years ago. You could get away with it.
Yes.
You could get away with it many years ago.
Don't forget the girl is home the entire time.
1 minute, please. Otherwise, we can't hear everyone. 1 minute. Dolapo, go ahead, please.
Oh yes, you just have to be totally involved. For the lady that's a bus driver. Yes, I understand that her job has placed constraints on her, but there were little things that she could have been doing, like periodically, maybe during break, rather than sitting down and chatting with all your co-workers.
Because she will still have an
break,
hour.
You can probably call the school up and say, okay,
exactly.
What's happening with my child? Can you please
so I have a question. Sorry, I have a question for you, Dolapo. If they now I now call the school and I said, hi, this is for Jessica's mom again. I just want to check, how is she doing today? How is school and everything? Now school says to me, Jessica, do we have a child called Jessica in this school? We have not used our 2 eyes to see Jessica for 1 month. She's not been to school this term. Now I know this. What do I do as a parent with Jessica, knowing full well that tomorrow, 8 o'clock, I got to be back at work? How many days do I take off work to make sure that Jessica goes to school?
About it. You see, you have to confront
Jessica. She's your child. You have to, you have to call Jessica and say, hello, I just spoke to
What is going on? Oh, I do go to school. No, you did not. I called your school. I called your school. You were not in class. There's one thing with me. I'm about as liberal as you can get for a father, a Niger father. But like I tell my parents, like I tell my kids, so long as you're under my roof, I don't care how old you are. I'm busting my ass to get you food, put a roof over your head. I pay all your bills. You will abide by my rules. We don't have a National Assembly here. I am a
This is
dictator.
this
The
is a
only veto
dictatorship.
power, the only person that vetoes me is your mother. Because that one is all knowing. So that's the way it works. When I tell you no, it's no. Supreme Court is mom. Go to mom. If you can appeal to mom, and mom can say, let it be. I'll say, okay, fine. But you see, I remember when my kids were when they started high school, the one thing I told them is all their friends during lunch, they want to go to the corner store to buy something to eat instead, which means you leave the school premises, walk about a kilometer to the corner store, go to the nearest fast food joint. That's what students do. And I told them, I said, sorry, number one, I don't have that kind of money for you. Okay? Because me, I'm packing leftover from last night to go to work.
Yes.
So you too, you will learn to pack white rice with stew.
And warm it when you get to school.
And if your friends are making fun of you, just go, why don't you try it? Yummy. You know? And the funny thing is, all those friends now come to our house.
They want to taste some of
my wife is, oh, what are you cooking? Can I have some?
The stuff he was ashamed of. Absolutely. We are completely out of time.
You have to be involved in their life. And they will come up with things like, but Lagbaja does not do this or does this. And if my answer is, I am not Lagbaja's dad.
Lagbaja's house, exactly.
Lagbaja doesn't live here.
I mean, well, in my case, Rachel, sorry, it's this emotional. There was a time I was working 8 to 6, and my son that 23 now was in school, was in secondary school. I was emailing every other day. I email school.
Well done.
The receptionists know my voice.
Well done.
When I call up, I say, "Hi, is that Wale's mom? Oh yes, Wale's mom. That's the receptionist, not even the teacher. She knows my voice.
Thank you.
So when the boy knows that my mother,
you're on his
case.
My mother will call.
Yes, sir.
Exactly.
It will get up.
Because by
it will get up. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Even the teachers know. Don't try with Wale. Because Wale's mother is a dragon, not a tiger. A dragon with fire.
A dragon or a monster.
With fire.
Yes, sir. That's the biggest fear.
All my kids they say that they say you're a tiger mom, you're a dragon mom, you be fire. I be fire. When you step out, when you step
I mean, my kids know that. They know that.
Yeah.
That's very, very simple thing. I want my kids know I have your back no matter what. But don't you dare
don't try me.
Embarrass me, you're dead. Don't embarrass me.
It's a two-way, yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's true.
You know, the biggest fear my kids have in high school, they had in high school, was that I could show up anytime.
Anytime, yeah.
And I will embarrass them. They don't know. They think it's spontaneous. All right? They think it's spontaneous. But to them, all the vacation days I have, I schedule some vacation days off just to show up in their school.
Yes,
they don't know what days it is, because most of the time, in fact, on those days, they see me drive out of the house in the morning, like I'm going to work regularly. But I'm only going up the street to the coffee shop to go and sit down.
They're not expecting that.
Waiting for them to get out of the house, then I can show up in school.
They need strategies. Yeah, we need to put strategies in place. You know, I mean, I remember my daughter used to say to me as well, when am I to expect you again? I said, don't worry. When I need to be there, I'll be there.
I'll be there.
Let me piggyback.
So can we have one last comment from Rachel? We have 3 minutes. I know we're going to overrun. Rachel, I need you to give me your last comment. Then I'm going to go around the room and I want something constructive from everybody. What is that thing that you think we can do? Remember, we're talking about is a black child disadvantaged. What is that one thing a parent, a friend, a sister, a landlord, a black person looking at a black child like, hey, this child is going astray or whatever the case may be? What is that one thing that we can do to narrow the gap? Because the gap is getting ever wider. We have fantastic teachers like Omoshola Bomi and Shola. We have people like Inkiru who are parent governors. We have people, but it's clearly not enough. And one thing I have learned from this is that is really, really humbling me is the fact that you are all owning your responsibility. I thought I would have a lot of comments along the lines of, don't mind this Oyinbo, they're racist, but I'm happy that we're having conversations about us owning our responsibilities when it comes to our kids. So I'm going to let Rachel say the one thing she wanted to say, then we're going to go around the room and everyone's going to give me that one thing that they think we can do. So Rachel, please go ahead.
Yeah, and my comment is actually going to answer your question. Parents, we really have to be parents. You cannot shy away from being parents, and I think that's part of the problem. We migrate and we try to assimilate a culture. We forget how to be parents. You can be your kid's friend and be a parent. Know where they are. I've worked 7 to 7, 12 hours, 6 days a week, and I wasn't there when the kids went to school. I wasn't there when they went home. But the one thing that they had was my phone number. The day my kids was in some place for about half hour, they couldn't find her. I got a phone call 80 miles away where I was to say, we cannot find Morenike, in school. Did she not come to school? And it was a very simple thing. I gave the girl an $800 phone, not because I wanted her to be in the place, because I need GPS tracking. I pull up my phone and I can tell them she's in the building. Find her. We have to be parents. No expectation of privacy is what my kids know. Your phone, everything, your text messages, social media, I have access to everything. Everything is connected to my phone. When she gets a text message, I get it. So if something looks off, I call her immediately. I don't really look into the conversation, but when I see a text message that looks off, I'm talking to her immediately. I'm getting on the phone to say, is everything okay? I saw something like this. So you want to make them comfortable, but you want to be involved. I get it. We migrate, and it's difficult for us because you're trying to settle down, you're trying to be a parent, but you still don't feel that responsibility. Use technology, call the school, pop in there, let them know your name, your middle name, let them be able to say that we can't find Labake, okay, Mr. Yage, we can't find her, what happened? But she's acting a bit odd in school. And my kids have always gone to predominantly white schools, and I really wanted that for them because I didn't want them to be in that all black. I feel that it puts them in a box, and I wanted them to be very exposed. I think at some point we will also address this. Education is also not just about books. As immigrants, our kids do have a leg up other kids in this society because they've got two backgrounds, especially if the kids are coming from home here. They're not just born in. So they're able to see through two different prisons, and you want to highlight that for your kids because it really gives them a leg up. They are looking at things from very different perspectives, and it gives them that ability to think faster. You want to know what your children's weaknesses are. I think it is very shameful for a teacher to be telling me who my child is. When I go to PTA, I spend 5-10 minutes because everything you tell me is what I know about my child. The day it deviates, I feel very ashamed. I should know when something is going on with my child. We should not be afraid to parent. You don't have to be a friend. I'm your mother before I am your friend.
Absolutely.
Hallelujah.
Put it to the side.
Absolutely.
Very important.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Rachel. Thank you. Let me go to Nkiru. Nkiru, talk to me about what do you think we can do to narrow this gap? What do you think a parent can do, a friend can do? I think we're all going to end up along the same line of, being more involved.
Same lines because it is a case of get involved. Get involved, get connected, as they call it. Get involved, get connected. You need to know if you're putting your child in a school, you need to know about the school. You need to know about their head. You need to know about the curriculum. You need to know because that child is the future for tomorrow. Don't come out blaming teachers for how your child has turned out when you didn't do your job first. So you need to know. I think all parents need to know it's very important to get involved in your kids' education. It's not telling them.
Because the truth of the matter is, even if it is the teacher's fault, it's not the teacher's child. So, who cares? Who cares? Who does all the blaming? Even if it is the teacher's fault, it is still your child that's messed up at the end of the day.
That child came out from someone's house, didn't they? They came out from your house. What were you doing when they left? So we need to get involved. It's very vital It hurts me when I see parents when they drop their kids off. They drop them off. They don't walk them in. They just drop them off. Small kids in year 2, year 3, and they walk off. And they expect them to walk in, and they're fine. Oh, they're big now. They're growing up. I know parents that do it now, even. And I look at them and I just shake my head. Me, I drop you. I wait. They open the class. I see you enter.
Yes.
You must enter first. When you enter, then I know that, yes, you're in school. I mean, I've had my daughter suspended for stupidity that she did in school. I told her, I said, you're going to Nigeria. Well, from that day henceforth, things fixed up because she knew I had the capability of sending her back home. You know,
that mommy does not play that.
I wasn't playing. I had her suspended. Literally, I went into the school. She had a fight with someone. You know how these kids, peer pressure from year 7. It's very important. I say this to every parent. My boys are not in secondary school yet, but you see from year 7, that first year of school, first year, second year, year 7, year 8, it shapes up what happens later. Kids have peer pressure from boys that are bullies already from primary school who have entered secondary school with them, or girls are bullies who want to lead another girl astray. That's where the damage is done, year 7, year 8. Once they hit year 9 and they're in that set way, there is no going back. It takes the will of God and yourself to be able to pull your child back. So she fought. I had her suspended. I went in, said suspend her. The head teacher was saying, oh, no, it's okay, Miss Onido. There's nothing, you know how kids are. I said,
Give me, I want to borrow her. Give me.
Where me I come from? It's only God that is saving her, because by right, I suppose beat her in front of you. But if I do it, you will call stress services. So please, suspend my child. Take her off your books for 2 days. I need 2 days to decide what I want to do, whether she's staying in your school or I'm moving her. Head teacher had no choice.
Give me my child. Give me my child. Give me my child.
What? Someone like I for 9 months. Want to come and embarrass me in public? Impossible. What?
Thank you. Okay, let's go. Omashalabomi, talk to me. What can we do? How can we narrow this gap? How can we be responsible for our children? How can we help our children?
Just be there for your children. I mean, I think it's quite important. My kids know that, number 1, I'm the parent, and number 2, no matter what, I have your back. It's quite important. And also, don't shy away from, because I have a friend, you have to be friends with my friend's daughter, my friend's son. I don't want that. Don't be anybody's friend. Because you have these friends that you're not doing well. I'm telling you, they're not doing well. You think, let them be friends. No, you're not nobody's friend. I mean, me and mommy are friends. Let's just be friends. You don't have to carry on the friendship. And I think a lot of us just keep going like, okay. And I've got a friend that our kids are. I don't allow them in my house. That's how bad it is. I do not allow our kids in my house, and she's my friend. I have to keep it at that. And I think you need to let your kids know more than anything that, you know what, I have your back. And try to put them, because a lot of these kids, they go outside, they'll go outside and misbehave, and they're so scared of the parents. They're so scared that they can't talk to mom or dad. They can't talk to anyone. They can't want to talk to. And that only, a lot of kids have got mental issues, and it shows a lot of them are depressed, and it just breaks my heart when I see a child that's got no one. When I say no one, I mean no one. Mom is at work 9 to whatever time. Dad is at work. There's somebody there for this child. And you see this child and you see yourself there, and it breaks my heart. Especially kids that you know that this kid can do better than they're doing. It's not just academics only sometimes as well. We need to have them doing something else. Let them go and dance. Let them go and play an instrument. Let them run around.
Yeah, they need distraction.
All of us, our Nigerian families, work, earn money, go on holiday. Now maybe once a year, take the child, go to the park. That's what these kids do. And you look at the white kids and you think they're doing better. What they're doing better? Because
the education is rounded. Is rounded.
Yes. This is just sit down and talk to Susie. Your dad always talk to you when you get me juice of the fridge, get me work on you. That's what that does. That's what your dad does. And you wonder why Susie is really better than Yinka. Hello. And I think as parents, we need to take our role very serious. Absolutely. I said to my kids all the time, I said, you guys are lucky because I went to school in Islam. So all this game was to play. I played it with Mr. Mackenzie, and my mother beat the lot of me. So I'm not. I'm not the Nigeria brother that came down when after university. I did not come down from Nigeria after university. I was in East Ham. So the other game that I want to go to the library. I got things to do. Yeah, I've been there myself.
I know it's not library you're going to. Yeah.
Oh, exactly.
Thank you.
You know, sometimes we need to, and for me, it's quite important for us to have our children back. That is it.
Yes.
Have a child back.
I learned something new from you as well. Not just have their back, but let them feel like you're accessible, like they can actually approach you, they can actually tell you stuff, and they can actually
very important. Very important.
Don't be this scary person that you have to balance it somehow. Of course, you want to be strict. You want them to know you're a no nonsense parent, but you also need them to know that when it comes down to it, it's you and me against the world. I will follow you anywhere. I will protect you to the very end. You just tell me, tell me the thing, and we will sort it out. Thank you so much. Let me reach out to Dolapo real quick. Dolapo, so what do you think we can do? Because we're just trying to round up now. What advice would you give for us trying to narrow this gap? Hi. I think we've lost Dolapo. The Canadian, so he's a couple of hours behind. He's even tried. He stayed with us. So let me go to Shola last but not least, and then we'll just round up the show. We've completely overrun.
I mean, I would just say that, what everybody has said, has said it all. But, there are three things that I'd always say with regards to being, there for our children. And I'm just going to, say it the way I normally say it. I call it the 3 L's. So the first one is obviously loving our children. And we've said that, of course, in as much as we are mom, we are dad, we have the boundaries in place, we still need to shower them with a lot of love and give them that sense of belonging. Because in the absence of that, to be honest, they're not with us, or then we're not with them. The second is listen. Being able to listen to them. Effective communication is not just about, like Omoshola said, that don't just bring that, or just stand there, or just, we have to be able to listen to what they have to say, because, of course, if we don't listen, we would not get to the nitty-gritty of whatever is happening, and it would just be keep covering up. And the third one is learn. So we'd learn from them. There's so many things that I have learned from my children, and of course the children that I teach as well. That also helps, in being able to relate with them or relate to them better. So taking on our responsibilities as parents, key, number one, but of course in the process of that, we need to love them, we need to listen to them, we need to learn from them, so.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, this show completely, never ceases to amaze me. I was like, wait till we want to talk. Black children are disadvantaged. They should what am I going to say? But I've heard so much truth. I've been completely humbled by the things that I've heard. I can't get over involve. Proactive. Learn, be a step ahead so that your child can meet you there. So that your child isn't bringing home something new. Oh, they said they've changed the curriculum and you don't know. You are not doing your job. Oh, they said, so all of a sudden, somehow, all the white kids are going on a school trip, only your child is not going. You are not doing your job. No, what I'm saying is maybe there was a letter that... there's certain things that widen the gap, like what Dolapo was saying about vocation, about all things which, if you pay attention, if you pay a proactive part in your proactive role, you will catch them before they do. Let's not get it twisted. People are not out here to make your child's life easy for your child. So you need to catch them every time they try to pull your child back. The same way you do at work. All the white colleagues are all going off and having one Subway sandwich, and there they are discussing who's going to be the next group leader or something. All of a sudden. So you need to know. You need to know certain things. And it's the same as your child, so that your child does not end up being marginalized, does not find himself having circles that he can't penetrate, having certain parts of the world or of his educational life that is completely inaccessible to him. That is nothing else but our responsibility and our fault. The child is a child, can only do so much. I think it was Nkiru who was saying about her child is in in year 3, but is doing maths with year 5 students. But when he hit against a brick wall, he started crying. That shows his age. The child can be as advanced intellectually as they want to be. That child is still a child. You are still the parents. You are the one who needs to make the difference. You are the one who, Yoruba say, what an elder sees sitting down, a child cannot see even if it climbs a tree. There's certain things that child will walk themselves into sticky situations that may or may not be fixable in the long term. It is you as Brenda say, this path you are treading, this can't work. Let's get you back on the straight and narrow. Let's sort out some certain things. Let's sit down with your teacher if need be. Let's get you back to default position of winning, the default position of excellence. Ladies, I am so grateful. Dolapo, I know he's gone, but thank you so very much for joining us, staying with us. I know the time difference affected him. He actually called in during his work time, so I'm really, really grateful for that. Rachel, also in America, had to be running up and down to find a quiet place because she's at work as well. Thank you so much. Thank you for persevering and trying. Thank you for staying with us. I really, really needed your input. Nkiru, I have a whole new level of respect for you. I didn't even know you were a parent governor. I can't even believe, we have parents who are making a difference every blessed day. A parent who, I see kids. I go out and I see kids on the street corner. I'm like, don't these children have families? Where is their father? How can this child be out at this time? But the thing is, you cannot start holding a child at age 16 when the child is your height, when the child is already wearing hoodie, when the child's voice has broken already, when you say, where you go, you can't tell me why, it's too late. The damage has been done, which is the problem that a lot of these parents have. It's not like they don't know a child shouldn't be out at that time, but which hand do you want to use in stopping somebody who's already grown? All the work you should have done when that child was a child, basically. You now want to, then you say, well, of course, it's too late. Anything the child has not...
That's always been the case.
Yeah, if the child hasn't learned by now, there's nothing you're going to tell that child at 15, 16. So to you saying about, holding the child by year 2, by year 3, putting some foundational stuff in there, making sure the schools know you, making sure the child knows that you don't play, making sure that the fear of the mother is the beginning of wisdom. Mommy can turn up at any time. Daddy can turn up at any time. Yeah, it's so important. Like, even if I wanted to try, you go around to Stacy's house and Stacy says, oh yeah, let's play hooky. My mom doesn't care. You say, it's very good. Me, my own mother will kill me. So what will happen? You play your own hooky separate. Me, I will go to school. Thank you. Let the fear of the repercussions be the guiding light until the child is old enough to discern between right and wrong and does it themselves without being scared of mommy or scared of daddy or scared of repercussions. So ladies, I'm so grateful. Thank you very much. At this point, I think we're going to end this show. Shola, I'm so grateful. Thank you for joining. Omo Shola Bomi. Love you lots. Ladies, say good night, everyone.
Night.
Good night.
Night, ladies.
Good night.
Ladies.
Bye.
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 Bye, Ray.
Bye.
Bye.